Hey, what's up? This time I'm going to review the Friday the 13th from Crystal Lake to Manhattan box set. That's first 8 movies from Paramount before New Line Cinema bought the franchise. It's got 2 movies on each disc, and thankfully it's not dual-sided, it's single-sided. And the picture and sound quality is decent enough, for me anyway. Uh, Most of them don't have any features on the disc. All the features are on the 5th disc, called Killer Extras. Some of these have commentaries, like Part 3 has a select cast and crew commentary, and then um, commentary by Tom McLoughlin on Jason Lives, Part 6. And then commentary with Kane, Hodder, and John Carl Buechler on Part 7, The New Blood. And then commentary with director Rob Hedden on Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And then for the extras, you got Friday the 13th Chronicles, 8-part featurette, basically the making of all 8 movies in chronological order. And then Secrets Galore Behind the Gore, a 3-part featurette on Tom Savini's makeup and gore effects. Well, mostly Tom Savini. It's for Part 1, Part 4, and Part 7. I'm not sure Tom Savini did Part 7, but for Part 7 they have John Carl Buechler and Kane Hodder talk about the effects. They're in like some studio setting. I don't know where they are, but in some kind of studio with a bunch of makeup and props and stuff like that. And then Crystal Lake Victims Tell All. That's basically just a few of the victims talking about how they got their parts, their auditions, some of the scenes they did, some of the stunts and makeup effects, like their death scenes, basically. Um, and it's not too many. It's just Adrienne King, Larry Zerner from Part 3, and I think Corey Feldman. I'm not sure. I know he's on the 8-part Friday the 13th Chronicles. But and then there's some random victim Part 7. I don't know his name. And then there's Tales from the Cutting Room Floor. It's basically just deleted and extended scenes that were cut down for an R rating. Not much, just a few seconds trimmed out of the death scenes. And for Part 7, they show the sleeping bag scene, which was like 5 hits on a tree, or maybe 6 or 7. I'm not sure. Between 5 and 7 hits instead of just 1. And a lot of the gore scenes they were a lot longer than they were in the R-rated version, so they show like work print footage of all the extended death scenes, and it's got an optional commentary by Kane Hodder and John Carl Buechler. And then there's Friday Artifacts and Collectibles, basically just talking about some of the props the cast and crew got to take home from the set, or didn't get to take home from the set. And then just memorabilia they sold promoting the movies when they first came out, like Jason lunchboxes, shirts, hats, and things like that. And then trailers for all 8 movies. And now for the original classic, Friday the 13th from 1980, directed by Cunningham. Stars Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees, Adrienne King as Alice, the main girl, the heroine. At the end, chops her head off, and then Kevin Bacon, one of his earlier roles. I think before he was famous, before he was Kevin Bacon. Um, and I forget the other actors' names, but it's basically about these camp counselors who were fixing up this old campsite called Camp Crystal Lake. aka Camp Blood. And they're trying to reopen it after it's been closed down a bunch of years because there were two murders in 1958 and then a boy drowned in 1957, and they just had a bunch of problems with that place ever since. So um, the locals kind of warn them, saying like, Camp Crystal Lake is jinxed, and Crazy Ralph, one of the locals, says it has a death curse, and you're all doomed, you'll never come back again, blah blah blah. So they all get killed off one by this mystery killer. You don't see the killer's face or who it is. You don't find out who it is until the very end, which is, of course, Mrs. Voorhees. And what I like about this movie is the mystery, the fact that you don't know who the killer is, because at that point in 1980, you didn't have any concept of the iconic Jason that we all know and love today. So it could have been anybody. It could have been one of the camp counselors, one of the locals. It could have been the camp owner, Steve Christie. Could have been anybody. And when I first saw it, up until the end, I was thinking it was a man the whole time, because I think the only Friday the 13th movie I saw all the way through at that point was Jason Goes to Hell. I think that was the first Jason movie I ever saw, or maybe Jason Takes Manhattan, like pieces of it before that. But I hadn't seen the other one, so I didn't know the whole story or how it progressed. So I figured I'd, start from the beginning, see how it all started, what it's all about. And I was kind of thinking Jason was the killer in this first one. And some people say it's kind of like a whodunit, but they don't really give you a lot of clues or red herrings. Just, I guess, little slight clues here and there. Just, let me see. There's a shot where the killer pulls a tree branch out of the way. It's like a POV shot, and there's a ring on the finger, and the hand looks kind of soft, so you can sort of tell it's a woman's hands. And then if you pause it just right on Steve Christie's death, like pause it when the light flashes in his face, it's kind of inching toward the killer. Can't see who's holding the light, but it's like before the flashlight comes on, you can slightly see an outline, a silhouette of the killer, and as it gets closer, you can sort of make it out a little bit again. You can't tell whose face it is. You can't tell it's Betsy Palmer, but it's kind of a soft featured face. Like, it could go either way, I guess. But other than that, it's just, POV shots and the fact that it could be anybody, because whenever the people see the killer, for example, Annie, who's hitchhiking, and she gets in the Jeep where the killer's driving it. They don't show the driver of the Jeep. They just show her talking to the driver, and the driver's not answering her. And, it's not some deformed, ugly killer, because obviously, they get one look at the guy and get scared and run. But they didn't, so it could have been just any normal looking guy or woman, I guess. So, of course, you find out it's Mrs. Voorhees, and then she starts talking about like her son Jason drowning in 1957, and Friday the 13th is his birthday. So I guess he died on his birthday, and then now that tonight, Friday the 13th, is his birthday again, like an anniversary. With each anniversary, she goes on a killing spree, I guess.